The best form of estrogen replacement therapy is there is no one best form. There's many different options when it comes to estrogen replacement therapy. And in today's video, I'm going to show you the different options that you have, starting with Estrogel. So Estrogel is made by a pharmaceutical company. So it is a very specific dose. One pump is going to give you 0.75 milligrams. It goes in very easily. As you can see, it's just a clear gel. Gets right into the system very, very quickly and absorbs nicely. I actually really like Estrogel, and I do use it myself sometimes. The next option, again, from a pharmaceutical company, and there's many different pharmaceutical companies that make the estrogen patch. Now, the estrogen patch comes in a couple different dosages, starting at 0.025 milligrams, going all the way up to 0.1 milligrams. And the dosage does end up being a little bit higher when it comes to the patch. So it translates over into roughly, 0.1 milligrams. You're going to get about a milligram a day of actual estradiol into the system. I know that sounds a little bit confusing, and it is confusing. I've talked to my pharmacist about it, but that is the case. So they come in these little packages. I'm going to open this right up so you can see what it looks like. I do use these too. I've used them for several years. They come in these little tiny films. You just peel off the sticker like this, and you stick this little film on your butt or your stomach, and you change them out every 3.5 days. So you change it out twice a week, and then it releases a slow amount of estradiol into the system every day for 3 days. Really nice because it's a nice steady dose. So if you go through your hormones quickly, or you're very sensitive to hormonal fluctuations, then a patch is a really great option because it's a little bit steadier of a dose. Rather, the Estrogel, for instance, gets through your system pretty quickly, I find. You'd want to use this, for instance, twice a day, because by the time you put it on in the morning, by the time bedtime comes, you will be all out of your estrogen in your system, likely. And so taking it twice a day can be helpful to keep more of a more steady dose through your system. Next up, we've got a bias. Now, this is my own personal bias, the Estro 2 Rejuvenate. It is an 80% estriol with a 20% estradiol. So this is for women that would like to use more estriol than they do estradiol, but bias can come in several different combinations of percentages. And a lot of the time, your doctor, your prescribing physician will decide what that percentage is going to be. Very common for it to be 80% estriol and 20% estradiol. Estriol being a very weak estrogen, and it acts mainly on what's called the beta receptor. So it is not proliferative. So it's very weak, really great for vagina health and vagina moisture, and to help with the atrophy that can happen in menopause in the vagina tissue. So it can be great to put down in that area for some women, but it's also great for the face. Research shows that when women use Biest or estradiol and estriol on their face, neck, chest area, it can actually help to build up collagen, shrink your pores, and reduce wrinkle size. So most of my ladies use this as a face cream. So that is a Biest estradiol estriol combination. Then you can do an estradiol only cream. Now, once again, this is one of my brand. This is my brand, and this is a low dose estradiol over-the-counter cream, and this is at a 0.25 milligrams. But you can have this compounded from a compounding pharmacy at a higher dose if needed. And so you can also do it this way as well. And your physician, your prescribing physician, can decide on what dose you would like it to be. Now, there's no pharmaceutical companies that make an estradiol cream or a bias cream. They put it in a delivery form that can be that is unique to itself. So then that's how they can patent it and sell it. So when you get compounded creams, you can get the compounded estradiol or compounded bias, or you can even do straight estriol by itself as well. And then when it's compounded, yeah, you can decide if you want to do 0.25 milligrams, 1 milligram, 2 milligrams. So you can decide on the dose, which is really nice to be able to do that. Now, the other option, which I'm actually coming out with soon, but I don't have it, but you can find it occasionally, typically from, once again, a compounding pharmacist. There's some over-the-counter brands that have it, but you can find estrogen in an MCT oil or jojoba oil, and it's you just shake the bottle, and then it's a dropper, and you drop the oil on your skin, and you can just rub it together and rub it in, and it soaks in really nicely. So that's a nice way to get really, really exact with your dosage, is with the oil. And we are going to be coming out with an estradiol only, it's suspended in an MCT oil for professionals to use. So it'd have to be through somebody that you're working with, but that is going to be coming down the pipeline. So besides that, I also have, now this doesn't contain estrogen, but it's for women that don't have the option possibly of using estrogen replacement therapy, and they want to use a supplement. Now, supplements can be helpful, especially in the early years of perimenopause. I really like this brand specifically, MenoSense by Women's Sense, and this contains things like Donquay, chasteberry, black cohosh, hesperidin, and things like black cohosh can be really great because they're a phytoestrogen. And so it's going to be a very weak action on the beta, the E2 receptor, which is just it's a softer action on the estrogen receptor, but it can act like it in the system, which means it can help with some of the symptoms of perimenopause. So it can help with hot flashes and night sweats and little naggly things like that. Will it help with brain protection, bone protection, all of the good things that estrogen can give us? No, but it can be a really great alternative if you are getting some of those symptoms and you are not a good candidate to take estrogen replacement therapy. The other thing that you have available is estrogen cypionate that can come in injectable form. So it'll come in a little bottle suspended in oil, and you inject usually once a week or every couple of weeks. And some women have to use estrogen injections because their skin doesn't absorb their estrogen very well. And then we have to use injectable, and they really like it, the women that use it. The other options are oral and troche and vagina suppositories. Vagina suppositories can be great if used in high enough doses on a daily basis. It will raise your levels systemically. Or if you don't want to raise levels systemically, you can use very low dose estrogen in the vagina tissue a couple of days a week. And that can really help with vagina tissue and lubrication in the vagina, without raising systemic levels. And same with on the face too, when women just use just a little pea size, so I don't ever recommend very much. So perimenopausal women that still have estrogen, if you're just using, this much on your face at nighttime, once a day, you will not raise systemic levels because it's just not enough to do anything. And I've seen this because I measure my own levels all the time, and I've been using Biest for years, and my estriol levels are low. So we know that, and in research, it shows the same thing. Now, we don't want to take estradiol orally or via troche, because your troche, you're going to end up still swallowing a lot of it. And then we don't ever want to take estradiol orally, because it can raise your risk of heart attack and stroke. It also can raise your binding globulin called sex hormone binding globulin, which will bind up your testosterone and then bind up your estrogen as well. When you take it orally, you can convert a lot of that estradiol into what's called estrone, which is a very strong inflammatory estrogen. And we typically usually have some estrone when we're in menopause anyways, and estradiol can convert over to estrone, and estrone can convert into estradiol. We make estrone out of our fat tissue, which is why we can still have some when we're in menopause, but we typically don't want to be replacing the estrone. So we don't want to be taking it orally, because we don't want to be raising the estrone, which can make you more inflamed. It's more proliferative, and there's good things about it too. We want some in there, but we don't typically replace it. So we don't want to be taking it orally. All right, ladies, that is your tutorial on your options of how to take estrogen replacement therapy.